Happy Thursday. It's a lovely day out. I haven't seen a chemtrail in the sky so far, so that's positive. Uh, I got a great response to my video yesterday. That was fabulous. And just some really thoughtful comments, and I love that. Uh, and one of those comments was, about how did you activate from Belinda Clemens. And, that's a big loaded question, but it's absolutely relevant here. Um, you know, Activating is a lengthy process, and it just doesn't happen like that. But mostly for me, it was about really honing my instincts, because I always had them, and they were very, very strong to me. Everything that's ever happened in my life, when I tell the story, it's funny, it just comes out that, I had a feeling. I had a feeling. And, over the years, tried to deny that part of myself. I didn't, because there's not other people talking about it, you just don't think it's a thing. And you remove that possibility of having a sense of knowing, for example, a sense of claircognizance, because no one else does. So, a lot of my journey of awakening and activating has been going back to my instincts and wiping away the programming. And it's hard because the programming is everywhere. It's all wired in. And mostly it's wired right into your network, your family, your friends. And, a lot of my activation came about after I stopped hanging out with people who didn't believe in me. I mean, why would you? I had a pretty lengthy history and in doing a lot of unique and interesting things, which has given me a pretty, diverse repertoire in my life. And I always, if I had to prove it to you, I mean, you obviously don't believe in me as a person. And that really, my network obviously became a lot smaller. And in fact, about 8 months ago, I actually ditched a whole a whole group of people in my town that were extremely negative, gossipy, low vibing. And the point that I did that, now usually, of course, you start blocking people on Facebook. It doesn't go over well, right? Because if, within your network, and that's how it's constructed, you piss off one person, you're going to piss off another. And that's how it works. But, of course, I, at that point was like, you know what? I don't care because I don't work in that programming. And I did it. And mostly it was because I kept coming across these people, and as an empath, it was rather hard to deny, like people smiling at your face and you feeling the you're an idiot vibe under them. And I've come to understand and know that vibe very well, and I have absolute confidence in it. It was getting the confidence in that took me a lot of years to. You always want to believe the best in people, and that's my penchant. It really is. That's my weakness. I believe we all have good. And because I come from a place of good, I kind of expect everybody else does. I don't hang out with people I don't like. Never have. If I have to be in the room with somebody who is, who I think is an idiot, honestly, I don't even want to be there. So I just don't engage. Our networks keep us unawakened. And, it's a hard thing to do, but again, things go much more smoothly on the activation level when you don't have that energy around you, because I've learned it's all energy. I don't know if you noticed when we started, but the room was rather smoky because, I Palo Santo smudge my space and my energy right before I film, because it, I think it really, I believe it works, and it works for me. Things just flow. And if I don't, they don't. So, I always have my sticks of Palo Santo wherever I go. Activating. Another thing I really, about 10 years ago, well, not quite 10, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I started walking. Now, I always thought walking was for pussies. I was a runner. I was fairly athletic when I was younger. And that was just a silly little, why would you do that? And I got back from South America, and I took one look in the mirror, and I was just horrified. And I made some changes, and the first one was to get out and be walking. I'd hurt my ankle really bad in Ecuador, and it just still wasn't healed well. So I knew I couldn't run, so walking it was. And from the minute I got out doing it, I had never experienced anything quite like it. In fact, a lot of people always, over the years, do you meditate? And walking was my meditation. And I can't tell you what it did for me, and not only on a physical level, but a mental level. Because, I'd go and I'd have a lot of problems before I left, and I came back and I'd sorted out, I'd sorted out the world. The worries would leave me. And it helped me start dealing with a lot of the underlying health problems I was having. I was always a good eater, and I was always, I'm Italian. I grew up with a garden. My dad was a hunter, wild meat only. And so, food was never the problem with me. What it was more was hormones, and it was stress, and it was cortisol, because it literally inflamed me. Stress. I used to think stress was for pussies too. Yeah, before I, burnt out. These are these common, terms that keep us in this box of not really getting down to what's going on. And the fact is my lifestyle, I have a tendency to be a real go-getter, and I don't know when to turn off. I tend to get obsessed with what I do, and because I love it. I don't do jobs I don't like. I kind of create everything I do. So, my heart is truly into it. I have a real belief that the DNA of the foods, the GMO foods we're eating, these altered genetic plants, introduction of these into our DNA has caused real havoc with us awakening. Because what it has done, in fact, is impacted our gut, which has impacted our brain. when the gut is dead, and most people today in North America are suffering from some level of gut issues due to the genetically modified foods, and I've watched it right before my very eyes. You're wired. And it has really been my mission. Of course, when GMOs came out, I was, getting into the natural products business. So I saw it right away, and I never ate GMO foods. I don't eat processed foods. I barely eat out. I really changed my way of living. And even though I was in the organic industry prior to that, I didn't quite walk all the way. I started doing that at that point and getting that DNA. So that means, if you're eating conventional meat, those cows, in finishing are eating GMOs. The chickens are eating GMOs. And that is translating into them and into their eggs and into the milk. I think that we have to watch that. So I made sure that I wasn't letting any of that wiring in. The other thing was changing my relationship with alcohol, and that was big. And I have seen the results of that in the last 5 years, because 10 years ago, I was in sales and marketing, and I was on the road all the time. Everything was an occasion. Of course, I came from an Italian family, so there was always wine at the table. I had always been around alcohol. I liked to party. Everybody knew that. I was go, go, go. And most of the business I ever did really was, in a social setting, quite honestly. That's how I tailored it. So when I got out of business, I had a couple of years where I partied quite a bit. And then it slowly started to go. And it was really when I started the walking. I felt like it less and less. And through that journey, discovered that the alcohol was really affecting my hormones. And I went down to drinking, once a month, maybe a couple of times, but that went down, down, down. And in fact, it's been close to a year. I think I've had about 5 drinks this year. I didn't know how to do a social occasion without it in the past. And I'm not overly social today. I don't put myself in those situations very much anymore, because I also found that my behavior could get low vibing when I was drinking. And in fact, that's when the negativity would creep in, and the numbing, and particularly the numbing of my senses and my instincts. As antibiotics and the glyphosate and the GMOs kill our gut bacteria, the alcohol does the very same thing and exacerbates it. It also feeds cancer. I didn't try to stop drinking. That's not what happened at all. It was just less and less. And honestly, it was the experience of my first hot flash that, really propelled me on that journey of no alcohol with no effort, because I found out, you don't really get them if you're not drinking. When I drank, I got them. There was a point where I got rid of them, and then they came back, even not drinking very much. And that was a real, again, push forward to say, no, 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 no. And, with some flower essences and and not drinking, I got rid of the hot flashes, and I haven't had one in close to a year, which is super cool, because you don't have to go down that path. And this is, they're normalizing all of this. So we don't have to venture down the hot flash path if we don't want to. And there are ways, natural ways to remedy that. Again, menopause, I'm embarking on it. You know, not yet, but it's happening, you know, before my very eyes. And I want that to be smooth sailing. It doesn't have to be a nightmare. And, you know, again, there are so many ways. My idea was to get that straight prior to, because I see menopause as an enlightening. And I'm kind of excited as to how that is going to roll out in my life. I don't see it as a daunting thing. That now that I understand my spirituality more, I see it as an absolute blessing and a passage, and it should be. It shouldn't be physically tough, and that's what we've been sold by the medical community. It should be an enlightening experience, and we can make it so. So that is my goal, obviously. And I figure the more enlightened and more activated I am, I'm going to be able to embrace that part of my life. So there you have it, activation. So many levels. And everybody experiences it in their very own way. It's so unique. One more thing. You know, you'll see me with this sitting here every day. It's my chaga tea. If you don't know chaga, it is a fungus that grows on a birch tree. They grow them in Russia. China has them. Canada, Quebec for the most part, but more in the north, and even in northern Saskatchewan here. I put it in a crock pot with the chunks, and then I make this brew. And, you know, it's there all day, and I just ladle it out. Chaga is an adaptogen. So again, you know, part of the activation is also, you know, tools like adaptogens like chaga, which enhance the immune system. But the interesting thing about chaga is its metaphysical properties, as I've come to discover. For many years, I couldn't remember my dreams. Just couldn't remember. When I was always one of those people that would go into dream, and I could come out, and I could go to the bathroom or something, and I could come back and zoom right back into my dream. I stopped being able to do that, and until I started drinking the chaga. And that is actually becoming reactivated in my life, which is really fun, because you know, I'm about evolving to the 4 and 5D, and I'm, you know, looking at sleep as, you know, that other part of my day that, you know, I was just sort of tuning out of, and now I really want to tune in. So chaga scrubs the pineal gland, which is super helpful in, you know, activating the third eye, and again, establishing your intuition. All these little things that'll help you discover that part of yourself that was always there. It just got wired over with the programming. Have a fabulous day. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would love to have you there, Martine Carlina. There's a lot of videos there now about, you know, everything from geoengineering to little talks like this. And I hope to see you over there. Thank you, and salute. Have a wonderful day.